Welcome to another episode of Habits for Health, where today we will dive into the science of carbs, why they matter, why you want to include them in your diet and not just go all low carb and destroy your health, which you can. And the best sources of carbs, how much you might want to incorporate during the day and for different purposes. And yeah, try to help you dial in your daily carb intake for maximum health.
All right. I'll start off by saying that your body uses the stored form of glucose called glycogen, and glycogen is mostly important for recovering from your workouts. And your workout basically determines how many carbs you will need to get enough glucose to recover from your workouts. And also, you may want to have some carbohydrates in your system or some stored glucose in your system, some stored glycogen in your system, depending on the workout that you're going to do. Now, say if you want to burn fat, obviously you don't want to have any glucose in your stores at all because you're going to use the glucose up first. But if you're preparing for like a marathon or whatever, you want to be stacked up on glucose. And for say resistance exercise, it might not be necessary to have full glucose stores, full glycogen stores, because if they're not completely full, then you can still perform quite well in strength exercise. And actually, if these stores are not completely full, then the anabolic response following resistance exercise might be higher if you shift from going to a low glycogen state to a high glycogen state.
So you basically suggest that people do it in the fasted state and then first consume something after they finish the workout?
You don't have to do it in a fasted state. I think it depends on if you're doing resistance exercise. It depends on how much glycogen do you think you'll be using and how much is in there. You may do it in a fasted state if you had some carbohydrates, say the evening before, then overnight your glycogen stores will be full enough to do your resistance training.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so it depends on how much you have stored.
Yeah,
And even
yeah.
for sleep,
So
it can also be helpful to get some carbs before bed to basically decrease cortisol and make you sleep a lot deeper than otherwise. So you don't some people they wake up during the night because they basically get a cortisol spike because their body needs cortisol to basically or needs carbs to decrease their cortisol levels. And
yeah.
some people that do low carb, they just they basically tend to you see some people they wake up many times during the night because they just have these like insane surges in cortisol because their body just psychologically can't function properly without these carbs. So it's a really good idea to like get something before bed to help you basically sleep better and for your body to be a lot more relaxed and not stressed during sleep, which you want because otherwise you can't basically maximize your sleep quality.
Yeah, that's quite useful. Let me give you an example. Tomorrow I'll have a recovery day. I'm not working out. I've had a lot of carbohydrates today after my workout, and tomorrow I'll probably do some fasting in the morning, and then in the afternoon I'll have a high protein meal with some fatty acids, and I'll probably leave carbs out. And then in the evening I'll have some fruit probably and protein, some fats, and that'll probably be enough to recover my liver glycogen. Your liver glycogen is basically your liver is responsible for releasing glucose in your bloodstream, which is very important for energy during your workouts. And then there's also your skeletal muscle mass. There's also a lot of glycogen being stored there, but you don't need to fully replenish these, and these will not deplete quite as fast as your liver glycogen will deplete. So I think that those carbs in the evening will be enough for me to have a proper workout in the morning. And I've actually seen that there's not much of a difference in strength for me whether I have a high carbohydrate breakfast before my workout or whether I train fasted.
Hmm. And it doesn't depend on how much you consume the day before in terms of that.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does. But then again, your liver depletes most of its glycogen within 24 hours, and that's like maybe 80 grams of carbs. So if you have that in the evening, then surely in the morning your liver glycogen will be high enough, and your skeletal muscle mass glycogen will still be high enough because that doesn't deplete nearly as fast. You will deplete like maybe a third of it after a 24-hour fast. So even if that is depleted, then that'll still be enough for a proper workout.
Yeah, I guess
Unless,
depending, huh?
unless perhaps you're training your legs because that will consume a lot more glycogen in the process than, say, a push or a pull workout.
Yeah, so now when you say all this, you're talking about resistance exercise specifically, right?
Yeah, resistance exercise specifically.
Yeah.
Because if I for like endurance exercise, you're gonna deplete your skeletal muscle mass, skeletal muscle glycogen much faster than when you're doing resistance exercise. Say if you're doing like 80 minutes to 120 minutes of running or cycling, your skeletal muscle glycogen is going to be near depletion,
Yeah.
and your liver glycogen as well. So after that, you will need to basically replenish all your glycogen stores.
Yeah, the lower the intensity, the more fat you use, and the higher the intensity, the more carbs you basically use for fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Quite simple in terms of that. Yeah, but that's the thing, and yeah, indeed, because of the legs, because they're so big muscles, so they basically pull out a lot of glucose and glycogen when they're basically used. That's why if you want to like completely deplete your stores, like using your legs as a primary function is really helpful to do that as quickly as possible. To see some
Mm-hmm.
people, they also like if they want to get into a really fat burning state, they just start by like depleting their legs. So like I don't do some sprints or like doing some really heavy squats or something to really deplete them, and then after that they kind of go into their normal workout because then they can like use fat a lot more than otherwise to really burn something off there.
Yeah, as long as you're gonna have glycogen stored, you're not going to burn any fat. So if burning fat is the goal, then simply fasting is not gonna get you there nearly as fast as a combination of fasting and doing endurance exercise.
Hmm. And that's also the question of like excessive cortisol if you like combine fasting with doing tons of exercise. Like I could imagine that in many cases it would probably like almost worse for you than having something in the system because it's like excessively spiked because you already get that from like having no carbs, you get cortisol elevated, and then you're in a fast state, more cortisol elevated, and then you exercise as well, more
Mm-hmm.
cortisol elevated. So it's like a huge spike in cortisol. So like I
Yeah.
wonder how bad that would be like for the body compared to like if you had something in the system. I probably think it'd be like a
Oh,
huge stress for the body. It'd be hard to recover from.
yeah. I would in that case maybe make sure that during your endurance exercise you do it at a low VO2 max, so you will be you shouldn't go get your heart rate up too high. Just stay at a moderate heart rate to burn the fat. And yeah, I guess some people could probably sleep well doing this, and others probably can't. Sleep is important. So yeah, if you're trying to burn fat, it's an effective method, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Like you might be able to do this for a little period, but if you keep doing it like this, it's gonna hurt your body a lot long term for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I
Mm.
agree.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what have you eaten today of carbs?
Um, I had some dried bananas right after my workout. Then I had a fruit shake with berries, banana, milk. I had some milk in my protein shake. So that's a lot of glucose and fructose coming from sugars and natural sugars. Um, Probably that might have been enough to recover my liver glycogen. And then after that, I had a whole lot of white rice and yeah, with my meal, with my I had pretty lean chicken. Um, so yeah, that's a lot of glucose. And I had a push workout like chest, shoulders, triceps, and I feel like right now I've had enough carbs to recover from that. If I'm gonna have more carbs later on, then it'll probably be more like slow release carbs, like maybe potatoes or other vegetables.
Okay.
And this is not ideal. Although, yeah, I do think this is good. Like I couldn't have gotten as many carbohydrates from potatoes if I wanted to, because then that would be too hard to digest. That would have been too much to digest.
Hmm. And
So
how close did you eat the fruits and the rice and chicken?
the first was pretty close to after my workout, like within half an hour,
Hmm.
and then I had the other meal like an hour after that.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite a lot in a short span of time, like a lot of carbs.
Hmm.
How much
Yeah,
do you think, like 200, 250 grams maybe of carbs within like an hour or something? Hour and a
that
half?
could be it. Could be it. Yeah.
And why so much at once rather than spreading it out a bit more?
Because my body will still be digesting, and your insulin resistance is lowest right after your workout. So you can the insulin spike that you're gonna get is not as huge as it would be when you're at rest. So my body will not instantly absorb all of it. I'm still digesting. It takes like 4 hours and before those carbs even get up to my skeletal muscle glycogen stores.
So
So
I guess you mean your insulin sensitivity is the highest after workout compared to when you're in a rested state.
insulin resistance is
No,
uh,
insulin resistance is about basically being able to not really handle insulin that well. Insulin sensitivity is about being able to easily handle your insulin levels and the carbs and all that.
so
So
my insulin sensitivity
yes, it's
is
high.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Um, yeah, I wonder how they compare to say doing say maybe the fruits often and then maybe like waiting 2 or 3 hours something with the rice and the chicken.
Well, your uh, insulin resistance is going to be better up to like 8 hours after your workout. So the sooner you have them, the better. But you could definitely spread it out. So say you need like 400 grams to replenish your glycogen stores, then maybe it would be ideal to take like 200 grams and then a few or like 150, and then 2 hours after you take 100, and then 2 hours after you take 50, and that's an example. But I would take consume the bulk of your carbohydrates straight after your workout
Yeah,
and taper it out.
yeah, I agree with like taking most of it, but still, I still wonder if it'd be better to have the rest spread out more instead of taking like most of it at once. Um,
Maybe, but I'm also just doing what's convenient. I'm not a robot, I'm not gonna do
oh,
everything perfectly.
I thought you were a robot. Okay, my mistake.
Yeah. So yeah, there are research papers that suggest that you could take it like ideally you would take like this much each half hour.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm not a professional athlete. I'm okay with just taking it in larger bulks than really tapering it off professionally. I'm not. bother to do that.
Yeah, I can understand. Something can also be too strict as long as you focus on
Yeah,
the major principles of kind of getting them to the best level possible, and then the small details are not as important for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe we can talk about how many carbs you would need to replenish your glycogen stores. So I guess some of it depends on whether or not you're fueling up on carbs before your workout. So let's just assume that you're gonna have some carbohydrates before your workout, and you're gonna replenish your glycogen stores beforehand. And let's pick an example that I found of a 70 kilogram person, an average person of 70 kilograms. He or she will store like 400 grams of glucose in their skeletal muscle mass, and they'll store like up to 100 grams of carbohydrates as glucose in their liver as liver glycogen. So say you're gonna if you're gonna work out, your liver glycogen is gonna deplete fastest of all. Like maybe like there will be like 20 grams left or so after your workout. If you're training your legs, then it's a heavy resistance training. Then you're maybe depleting like 40% of your muscle glycogen. So let's take like 400 grams and then 40% of that. So that's like 160. And say you consume like 80 grams of glucose from your liver. So then we have like 240 grams. So yeah, that will be a decent amount of carbohydrates to take after your workout if you were fueled up beforehand.
240 grams.
Yeah, in this particular case. Now, I may have had about 240 grams of carbohydrates after my workout today, and I trained fasted, so my liver glycogen was probably a bit lower already. My skeletal muscle glycogen was probably already a bit lower as well. So yeah, I kind of overcompensated.
Of course.
Um, Now, the benefit of doing this might be a greater shift from the catabolic state to the anabolic state. But yeah, I don't think this is gonna make much of a difference, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I like if you just consume carbs before, I don't think it's gonna change much with anabolism, catabolism, to be honest. More if you're consuming a lot of protein before, then it probably might shift it a bit. But carbs just using for fuel, I don't think it's any been big change with that at all. And why did you decide not to consume anything before? Just more convenient or
Convenience, yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I kind of like training fasted,
Mm, okay.
having nothing in my stomach. If I'm not hungry, that is. I don't want to train with when I have an appetite.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. Yeah, for me, I don't really notice much of a difference. If I'm like in terms of yeah, if I'm eating before or not in terms of performance. Like, of course, you're eating a lot and you're just feeling like completely full, like it's not comfortable working out like that. So of course, not really ideal to do that. But yeah, for me, I try to spread out the meals in terms of carbs and everything quite a bit. And so, but the thing is, I try to just get like some protein and then just carbs like before. But primarily like carbs are to me like most important to focus on because the protein I can like get later. And um I actually also oftentimes like have like carbs during my workout. I feel like it also helps me kind of like keep stable levels of energy too. Like
You
I
can do it.
yeah, I tend to like to buy like a bottle of like 1 liter of like orange juice. And then I sip that like a bit before, a bit like during, a bit after, and then I kind of feel like drink the whole one, kind of doing that like a few hours before, during, and after. And I think it like helps a lot to keep my level stable. And also like I never feel dehydrated like that. It's really nice. Like I really feel a difference too. If I don't do it, I can sometimes feel dehydrated like after workout or like at the end or something. And also I sometimes go to the sauna as well after, and then it also helps a lot to also be hydrated for the sauna as well, and not experience that dehydration, because yeah, if you're not dehydrated like in a sauna, well, after that you can feel really down. You can feel headache, or you can feel like really like low
Yeah.
energy. You can feel a big
Yeah.
difference. Yeah, so like yeah, I like if people want to like have some energy during their workout or feel like it helps them not to like be completely fasted, I think just getting some carbs only could help a lot to like just have some stable energy, and doesn't have to be a lot, just a bit, and they can like take the rest like during or after if they want. But again, it's not needed per se, but for me, I do primarily because of like the cortisol. I don't want to like elevate that too much. And that's why I want to consume some carbs before, ideally, to make sure that it's not elevated too much, because already being elevated by the exercise while in the fasted state and not consuming carbs, then it's going to be elevated even more. And I think it's hurtful to have it too high. So I think it's better just to consume a bit, just make sure that you like dial it down. You're not going to have an excessive cortisol spike, because it's not going to
Hmm.
change my gains anyway. I'm just having some carbs only. So I think it's can be quite helpful to do that.
Yeah, sure, you can do that. You can do that. Although I think it's uh not really a bad thing if you have higher cortisol during your workout, because you're gonna shift into an anabolic state and consume your carbohydrates and be out of that high cortisol state after your workout. So I think that temporary higher cortisol might not actually be so bad. Although I do want to add that if you're training fasted, then it's definitely a good idea to have some other sources of electrolytes, like you're taking your orange juice and whatnot for electrolytes. But if you're not taking those, then maybe consume some salt or potassium, or maybe even calcium and magnesium before working out, or yeah, even boron, um, or some other electrolytes you might like to take. And also, another advantage of training in a fasted state is that there might be higher, uh, more mitochondrial biogenesis if you're working in a low glycogen state. Um, so yeah, I think part of this is maybe personal preference, and also what is your goal? Do you want to burn some fat during your workout? Do you want to make sure you're always in an anabolic state, or are you maybe a bit more interested in mitochondrial health? Then training in a fasted state might be more beneficial.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a study that compares, say, having carbs before and not having in terms of mitochondria. I'd be surprised if it helped to increase mitochondrial function or production, to like have carbs before compared to not having anything in the system. Because like the cortisol is never ideal to like have excessively spiked for the body. It's really damaging for the body. It's really stressful, and it hurts like basically all functions of the body, which is why I want to minimize that. So you get enough by just doing the exercise, like a spike from that. So if you want to excessively doing that by also being in a fasted state, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's good for the body, and I think it's a really good idea to make sure that it's not excessively elevated, which is why like you have to consume a lot to just like a bit. So like for me, I think just consume a bit before, like you don't have to do more than like, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 grams to have a little bit in the system. I think it's enough just to like dial it down and make sure that like, your body is good and not like being excessively stressed out from all that. And you can also, I feel like I can notice actually that you recover quicker from the workout too when you do that compared to when I don't. So I feel like more stable energy during the day as well if I do that compared to if I'm like not consuming anything and then I work out, and then it takes longer to kind of recover from that workout than if I have just a little bit in my system. So I think something to experiment with, and we don't have like that many studies on this at this point, and so like the
Mm.
difference. But how the body works with cortisol and carbs, it can make sense. It could be like that, but I think they could also test it out themselves by like try to do like in fasted state and then doing it with some carbs and like different amounts, and then see how they feel, and then try to go from that as well over a period. And yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely studies on mitochondrial biogenesis and training in a low glycogen state. Um, but yeah, just try to see what works for you. I would suggest.
Yeah.
I've tried both. I think for me, it doesn't make that much difference. And also, I wouldn't wait like really long. I wouldn't do like 2 hours of fasting in the morning before going to gym. I would do it rather fast so that I don't deplete my glycogen stores completely when I go to the gym because I don't want to do that.
Yeah, if you still have something stored in the system, then it might like you might be fine and you might not like notice anything. But it's more if you completely fasted, like completely depleted, then I think it'd probably be a bad idea to over excessively increase the cortisol by having nothing in the system and just keep on working out. But yeah, if you have something from last night and you just go work out pretty quickly after waking up, then it's probably fine.